3 transfer portal commitments for the Ole Miss Rebels.
You are Locked On Ole Miss, your daily podcast on the Ole Miss Rebels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back into the Locked On Ole Miss podcast. I am your host, Brian Smith, sitting in for Stephen Willis. Appreciate you all coming in to check out everything going on with Ole Miss football. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. The Ole Miss Rebels stay hot in the transfer portal. That is definitely my world as I operate the Portal podcast here on the Locked On Network. And it seems like every time I research something, the Rebels have got themselves another commitment. You got to give it to Lane Kiffin. He gets it done there. Speaking of Kiffin, we're also going to be discussing his comments on Carson Beck recently that Lane made on a podcast. And if you haven't seen, there is a new rule in college football about injuries, faking them, if you will, in regards to stopping play so teams can't keep going fast with their offenses. Kiffin also commented on that. There's a pretty good article I'm going to talk about. Also going to give my take on the SEC. Several teams. This is a really important year. Some coaches might be on the hot seat, some fluctuating situations at quarterback, etc. Going to give my take on that. And to finalize the show, Ole Miss depth chart. Going to talk about a few of the things there as I learn more and more about who's going to be the main guys for the Rebels this fall. But first, let's talk about not one, not two, but 3 players that committed to Lane Kiffin and the Ole Miss Rebels. Number one, and this is in no particular order, by the way, but number one is a guy that I'm picking to go first because I love the backstory. There's nothing like the underdog that ends up doing really well and then he's rewarded. I don't care if it's college football or anything else. This is awesome. Damian Taylor. He's from the greater Tuscaloosa area, played at North Fort High School, right down the road from the Alabama Crimson Tide. Auburn didn't want him. Bama didn't want him, etc. He goes to Troy, doesn't play much first year or so. Third year plays a little bit, but then this last year, he figured it out. Got to give him credit. Here are his numbers and his Pro Football Focus numbers. Again, this is awesome. Damian Taylor, running back, 5'10", 220 pounds. Obviously, size is not a concern. He had 224 snaps last year, 1,002 yards rushing, 5.9 yards per carry, 7 touchdowns, only 1 fumble. Here's a stat, though, that goes beyond the normal rushing statistics. There's yards overall, your average, but then there's your yards after contact per PFF. 3.98 after contact. That's insane. I mean, a lot of guys would be happy with averaging 4 yards a carry in general. He did that after contact. That's really impressive. So Damian Taylor is a durable back and one with some pop to his pads. Offensive grade per PFF, 83. That's excellent. Running, 86.9. That is beyond elite. That's about as good as it gets. And fumbles, 81.9. So he's got good ball security as well. He only caught the ball 3 times. That concerns me a little bit because Kiffin's offense obviously utilizes the running back in so many ways. But at the same time, Kiffin, I mean, the guy's the portal master. He'll figure it out. I wouldn't be surprised that when Damian, that they'll use not just 1, but 2 running backs. That way they have a receiving threat out of the backfield. Perhaps Damian is a little bit more of a decoy and he'll pass protect. I don't know. Maybe he figures it out in the pass game too. But again, first few years that he was at Troy, didn't really do a lot. Kind of came on a little bit his junior year, but then as a senior, really blossomed. He'll be a 5th-year senior at Ole Miss, and good for him. This is the American dream right here. You work until you get what you want. Damian Taylor, welcome to Ole Miss football. Now it's time to talk about a defensive back that has all the prerequisite size measurables, experience, everything you're looking for. This is the prototypical Lane Kiffin find in the portal. And I know there are other schools after this guy too. Ricky Fletcher played at South Alabama. You don't find many corners that are 6'1" and above. This kid's listed at 6'3", so he's obviously pretty darn tall. Ricky Fletcher, this past season, set out But in 2023 for South Alabama, 773 snaps and started all 13 games. So durability will not be a concern. He absolutely has that. 43 tackles, 10 stops, meaning he plays near the line of scrimmage. 51.3% of the passes thrown his way were completed. That's pretty good. Defensive grade, 64.3. Run defense, 68. Tackling, 62.7. Pass defense, 63.7. Those aren't great marks, but I'm going to guess that Ole Miss, based on all the talent they have, it's going to be a little easier there. Also want to make a note. Tavoy Fagan already made the news that he's headed to Ole Miss to transfer from Clemson. So you don't get one, but you get two athletic long corners with multiple years of eligibility. Fletcher's got a couple years. Tavoy has 4. Rebels are doing really, really well in the transfer portal in that regard. Another player that they added, this is the third this weekend, Therese Davis, 6'4", 310 pounds, out of Maryland. He got thrown to the wolves this last year by the Terrapins coaching staff. Maybe they just had no choice. Started 2 of the 10 games, played 204 snaps. Out of those, he played 204 snaps at left tackle, but he played 292 overall. 54.5 offensive grade, 51.8 pass blocking, run blocking 54. Those are all subpar. But he was a true freshman playing left tackle in the Big Ten. How did you think that was going to go? Very athletic kid, got a chance to play early. He caught the attention of Ole Miss and numerous other schools. Hats off to Therese Davis for getting an opportunity to play early and taking advantage because they wouldn't allow him to play in 10 games. Therese wasn't a good football player. Young, inexperienced, I get it. But I asked the following questions in relation to what Ole Miss can do short-term as well as what Davis could do long-term. Now, if the measurements are even close to right, 6'4", 310, sounds like a guard to me, but he played left tackle at Maryland. Maybe he plays a little of both. One of the things that Kiffin did when he was at Bama was witness how they move guys around on the offensive line. And a lot of schools do this. Younger guys often play inside, then you kick out to the exterior. I wouldn't be surprised if he got a look at multiple places along the Ole Miss offensive line. Maybe Therese Davis plays left guard, in addition to right tackle or left tackle this fall. He'll end up starting at some point. I don't know if it'll be this year, possibly. But the worst case scenario is, again, he started as a true freshman a little bit, had over 200 snaps, almost 300, playing for Maryland. This is a guy that's going to have 3 years of eligibility for you. The long term is what Kiffin's looking for. Many of these guys come in with extra eligibility. Taylor, out of this group, the running back, he's the only one that does not. The Rebels are not only getting good players, they're getting good players that can play in Oxford for multiple years. That's going to pay dividends down the road. Just another note, Janoris Hobson, a receiver, has left Ole Miss. He was a guy that originally was like a walk-on Mississippi State, went to Northwest Mississippi Community College and came to Ole Miss. Didn't play last year, but he is leaving the program. It is what it is. A couple more notes here about the portal before we go on and talk a little bit about Lane. There are tons of guys getting in. Just an overall note here. Can't remember if it was Thursday or Friday, but somebody made a note that I saw on social media that about made me fall out of my chair. Over 1,000 players entered the transfer portal in one day. In one day. That's a lot. I do a really thorough job of going through stuff, but I mean, it's just unbelievable. I'm going to miss stuff, and so is everybody else. And when these things hit officially compared to when they're announced, that's very fluid. Keep in mind, with that coming to you, like there could be news happening right now at Ole Miss, and we don't hear about it until Tuesday or Wednesday. Paperwork, when they want it to be announced. There's a lot of play with this because it's logistics. It's making sure your family's aware, making sure everybody's got all their I's dotted, the T's crossed. And most of these schools want these commitments to fall at a specific time. So while I'm talking about 3 right now for this first segment of the show tonight, and this is being aired Monday morning, like there could be 2 or 3 other guys that Ole Miss either gets a commitment from or sets up an OB or something else because the portal is very, very much in flux. So don't forget that. When we come back, have a couple of Lane Kiffin comments that we have to get into, and we're going to talk a little bit of SEC football across the board. That is next here on Locked On Ole Miss. Get the supplies you need from the site made for the skilled trades, Supply House. Whether you're into plumbing, HVAC, or electrical work, Supply House is a reliable way to order products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Plus, with a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from 400 top brands, you'll find what you need delivered fast, coast to coast. Need help with an order? Supply House offers expert support and industry-leading service, so you'll always talk to a real person. And for trade pros looking for an extra edge, their free Trade Master program offers exclusive perks like a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. Thousands of skilled professionals are already taking advantage. Now it's your turn. Join the Trade Master program today at supplyhouse.com/TM and start ordering plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with just a few clicks. Plus, use promo code SH5 for 5% off your first order. That is supplyhouse.com. Lane Kiffin speaks. If there's anybody more entertaining from the college football community, and specifically, just to be clear, as a coach, I'm not sure who it might be, but Kiffin also talks quite a bit about a lot of different people, and he has a lot of fun with it. He was recently on the Pivot podcast, and they were kicking around a lot of things about NIL. And I don't really know why, but he just couldn't help himself, which is typical Lane. And they were talking about Carson Beck got $4 million and some odd dollars. And they were going on and on about it. And Kiffin just kind of sat back. But then he interjected and said, do they realize down at Miami, did they watch the game against us last year that Carson Beck played? And I'm like, man, he just had to throw that kid under the bus. But Ole Miss had their way with the Georgia offense that day. And you know what? It's technically true. That wasn't exactly Carson Beck's best performance, nor Georgia's. And Ole Miss put him through the ringer. I thought it was a really funny moment. And he said, I wasn't going to say anything, but I just had to, or something like that. Anyway, it was typical Kiffin, just taking a barb, just throwing it out there, being the guy that he is, really. He likes to take shots, and he's okay if you take some of him too. Now, there's an article out on the On3 page for Ole Miss that's talking about Lane Kiffin response to NCAA rule changes about the injuries. And it's a pretty interesting article. Nick Costco wrote the article, and there's been a lot of hand-wringing over this for years and years and years. This goes back to the 80s when the Cincinnati Bengals were running sugar huddle and no huddle, etc., and the rest of the league hated it. Guys are suddenly hurt all the time, but every team has done it in some capacity. Anyway, Kiffin was happy to comment on this, and I just want to read a few of the comments about it. Yeah, actually, I didn't get information about that from the SEC or NCAA yet, Kiffin said. I actually saw that this morning on social media, so I don't know enough to comment on that. But what he's referring to is all the stuff that's going on with how it's going to be perceived, because Kiffin was accused of having players take a knee or fall down or whatever last year. Him and every other school have done it. But he got tired of it happening to his school. So it's not real surprising. But anyway, here's the rule part that you need to know. Under the new rule, if medical personnel are forced to enter the field of play to evaluate an injured player after the ball is spotted by the officiating crew, the player's team will be charged a timeout. That's a big deal, especially if you're in the fourth quarter of a game. If that team doesn't have any remaining timeouts, a 5-yard delay of game penalty will be assessed. That could be big too. I mean, 5 yards, if like you're trying to keep a team from getting into that red zone area so they can make an easier field goal, like you want to keep them at the 30 or out. They get down, like if you're on the 30-yard line and they get a delay, they're down to the 25. That doesn't sound like much, but a 42-yard field goal compared to a 47, there are some ramifications there. There's all kinds of things that kind of go on about that. So here's another comment from Lane Kiffin. I'm glad, Lane said. I know some people say, okay, that sounds weird coming from me. We're a tempo offense. I've been saying this for years, okay, that faking an injury hurts us more than anybody, us in Tennessee, probably more than anybody in America. He's got a point. Tennessee really goes fast. They might do it more than anybody, but at times Kiffin will do it. And I guarantee you with Austin Simmons, I know that kid. He's really smart. That's a young man that's going to be able to figure it out. I bet they go up tempo about as much, if not more, than any other school in the P4 this year. It will not be fun to go against that offense. Let's see. Here's another comment from Kiffin. Happens to us more than anybody. He might be right. Happened last week over and over again. Kiffin said, so it happened. It may not surprise you. I was happy for that. We issued a statement weeks ago about this. That's from, last year talking about this. And this is something that's going to get tweaked in millions of ways. There'll be people complain about it. And I don't care one way or the other. If people are upset, there's a rule about this, but there's really such a disadvantage for defenses. I don't know what defensive coaches are going to do because the skill players on offense, not just at the professional level, but even like G5 and lower levels of P4, you have tight ends that are so physically gifted now. They'll line up in line, then in the backfield. Sometimes they'll start the next play in the backfield. They'll shift into the slot, and you've got like a 6'3", 235-pound linebacker on him. He's not covering that guy. So if you get smoked on that play, you need to figure out something else, or they're going to run something to that same guy, try to force the same. You're in a bad spot because you can't go by personnel packages anymore. 12 personnel, meaning one running back, two tight ends, they still might be in 5 wide. It's a really tough spot. So a lot of coaches try to cut corners, and that's pretty much where we are. So it is what it is, and I think that's kind of the way people expect it to be moving forward too. Looking at the SEC now, I just want to make a few comments about some of the teams around the league, just in general, that Ole Miss is going to be competing with. I want to start off with Georgia, and I think most people feel this way, but they're not quite the same program. The NIL era has hurt them. It's like Damon Wilson left, Carson Beck left. They lost good players. They don't have the same depth. Their O-line is nowhere near where it used to be. They had 25 sacks that they gave up last year. As I noted earlier last week, Georgia is a team that can be had. I could see them losing 3 or 4 games this year because they're going to be in so many close games. If things don't bounce their way, they absolutely could. And again, I'm picking Ole Miss to beat them up there. I just don't think they're the same team. And finally, I just don't think Gunnar Stockton is that great. Texas, flat out the team to beat. They're my pick to win it all. Prove me wrong, but they've gotten some key transfer portal additions. I talked about that on the Portal podcast. They are going to be scary good. Watch out for Texas. Bama. This is my question mark team. I went through their roster and their depth chart the other day. They've got a lot of talent, but who plays where? And are they sure about the quarterback yet? I'm not sold on Bama, but if they figure out quarterback, that's possibly a top 5 team. The roster is really good. The defensive front, the secondary, etc. They got a lot of talent. We'll see what happens with the Crimson Tide. Tennessee's going to fall off. Look, even if they bring in a good quarterback, he didn't get any rapport with the receivers during spring. That's rough, man. I think the over-under on FanDuel is 8.5, under all day. I don't see that going well for Tennessee. It's unfortunate, but it is what it is. South Carolina, they are now the hunted. How will the Gamecocks act when teams circle them and not the other way around? Curious about them. I don't know how that's going to go this year, but South Carolina is an interesting team. Texas A&M have 2 questions. No offense, but their head coach even talked about it at the end of last year. I'm not going to get real specific, but he kept saying at the press conference, we can't figure out zone defense. How is that possible? That's a problem. Secondarily, who's the quarterback going to be and how's that going to work out? I don't think he makes enough post-snap reads from all the things that I've heard, and he's not always accurate. They got a lot of talent, but A&M, I still have some worries. Florida, DJ Lagway, is he going to save Billy Napier's job? I don't know, but I wouldn't touch that team, good or bad, no matter what. I just don't trust Billy Napier's staff to get that done. They've had too many weird things happen, but they got some talent. Missouri, they're my sleeper this year in the Southeastern Conference. Schedule, not overwhelming. The schedule is actually palatable. They could be 9-3 and be disappointed because they got some teams on that schedule. Timing works out. Ole Miss and some other teams have a chance too, but Texas is my team to make it to Atlanta, I'm pretty sure on. Missouri is one of the 2 or 3 that I think could definitely make it there, Ole Miss being another. Next up, LSU. Are they going to play any defense? Until I see it, I do not care what anybody says. I don't care what was or wasn't on TV at the LSU spring showcase or whatever. I do not care. I got to see it in the game. Oklahoma, now or who knows? Because if it doesn't go well this year, and by the way, Oklahoma's schedule is ridiculous. If it doesn't go well this year, they're probably going to fire Brent Venables. We'll see. But they got a great quarterback that came in. I think he's electric. They got some good players. They've gotten out of the portal. Otherwise, they got Jay Knott from Cal at running back. They're a team that may not do a lot because the schedule is crazy, but I bet you they beat somebody they shouldn't. And they got Michigan week 2 as well. That's an interesting game. Auburn, just 2 words on Auburn. Who knows? Better quarterback play. That's the last thing I want to mention about the SEC. I think the league will be better this year at the quarterback position. You got Nussmeier back at LSU. I don't know about A&M, but I think Archer will actually be better overall for Texas because he can run. Oklahoma went and got a real quarterback. We'll see what happens at Missouri. That's a question. Georgia, not so sure. Lagway's at Florida. I'm definitely high on him. I think he's an NFL player, and I think he's 3 and out. But he's still at Florida, so I don't know how much that's going to count for. South Carolina's got a really good young quarterback that's developing. We'll see. Tennessee's obviously in a state of flux. You got Diego Pavia. Don't forget about him now at Vanderbilt. He can do some things. I think the league overall is good. And, of course, you got Austin Simmons, the guy I've been talking about for a long time, that's coming back at Ole Miss. And you got Tavon Green over at Arkansas, too. The league's going to be much better at the quarterback position. When we come back, going to discuss a little bit about the Ole Miss depth chart. I'm trying to learn it. I'm going to make some comments. For those of you on YouTube, when I comment about something good, bad, or indifferent, let me know. I'm going to go back through the YouTube comments because I'm trying to learn who goes where and why. There's situational football to talk about. We're going to talk all things Ole Miss football depth chart next here on Locked On Ole Miss. There's nothing like the atmosphere of an NBA playoff game. Every bucket, every defensive stop, every moment feels huge. It's electric in the arena, and with Gametime, you could be a part of it without the stress of last-minute ticket hunting. Gametime makes it fast and easy to get playoff tickets, even when demand is sky high. Prices on the app actually go down as tip-off gets closer, and their last-minute ticket deals could save you up to 60%. Gametime is a good option for a lot of reasons, but again, 60% off, and it's not just NBA playoff games. It could be a concert, movie theater. You could be going to a play, a comedy, or any other kind of event. You can get up to 60% off. Make sure you check out the Gametime app for last-minute ticket opportunities. Also, it's all-in pricing. What you see is what you get. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Terms apply. Again, create an account and use code LOCKEDONCollege to get $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Ole Miss's depth chart is still being tweaked even at the end of spring. What's going to happen next? Who, what, when, where, and why? That's what the transfer portal is for. And to be honest, it's a daily adventure. But you still got to have a barometer. Where are you? What's next? And I'm trying to learn as much as I can about Ole Miss because it's one of the harder rosters to learn because they do use the portal a lot. And I think that every day is an opportunity to learn something. So from quarterback down, just going to read some things. This is from Inside the Rebels on 24/7. This is their projection. I don't know how accurate this is going to end up being, but I just want to make some comments as I go through. And again, if you're on YouTube, comment. I'd love to hear what you have to say. Obviously, Austin Simmons is going to be the guy at quarterback. Who's going to be the backup, though? A.J. Maddox, I remember that Stephen Willis mentioned he hurt his hand. I don't know the severity. I don't know when he's coming back. I don't know how that's going to work out. Trinidad Chambliss or Pierce Clarkson's who they got as the second-team guy. I would have to assume it's Clarkson because he's been through spring. But Chambliss had 51 touchdowns between passing and rushing last year. at Ferris State and winning the FCS title. I would think there's a chance that he competes for that spot. We'll see how that goes. Running back. This is where it gets really unique. Obviously, we got Damian Taylor coming in, a good player. Got Kewan Lacey, Dominic Thomas that are backups to Diggs. Is Diggs going to be able to stay healthy? That's been the problem with him when he was at Notre Dame, when he was at LSU, at Ole Miss. The guy's just not been healthy. So I think this is going to be, my opinion now, a play-by-committee situation. In other words, if you're hot, you'll stay in the game, but it depends on the lineup that you're going up against. If it's a defense that features a bunch of linebackers that struggle in coverage, a running back that can catch the ball more, will play more, things of that nature. Curious to see what Ole Miss does, but adding Damian Taylor from Troy is going to help them quite a bit. Receiver, not worried at all. Obviously, you got Stribling, you got Lee, you got Wallace, you got Caleb Odom. They got a bunch of guys, and they're going to rotate. Out of all the positions other than quarterback, I'm the least concerned about what's happening at the wide receiver position. Knew Caden Lee pretty well in high school. I knew he was going to be good. I think he's going to be one of the leading receivers in the SEC this year. Watch for him to break out. Tight end, I don't know anything about these guys. If you got comments about them, fire away again on the YouTube page. Daquan Wright and Luke Hez. They've got the second team guy is Trace Bruckler. Third team, Dylan Hipp or Hayden Bradley. Again, I don't know much about them, but Ole Miss, I think they're going to run the ball a little bit differently this year. Austin Simmons can run too, do some RPO. I'll be curious to see what the nuances are. But the tight ends, the H-backs, they'll be a big part of that. Up front, this is what Inside the Rebels has. I'm taking their word for it. Diego Pounds, Delano Townsend, Bryson Sanders, Patrick Kudus, and right tackle Jaden Williams. That is left tackle to right. I don't really know much about it, but the situation for me is Steven told me maybe a guard, maybe a tackle could be added from the portal. They went and got one. We just talked about it, Therese Davis. But they weren't in a bad spot because they already got Patrick Kudus from Arkansas. Should be in a pretty good spot, to say the least. I'm curious now, how do I put this? If Lane had an opportunity, if there's another guy that gets in the portal, or maybe they're already talking to somebody here, do you take a look at another offensive lineman? They tend to be expensive first, and secondarily, you have to look at it from a perspective of how does that upset the balance that you had in spring? I really don't know. Ole Miss is a good football team this year, but having the proper O-line depth, man, that's really important. If you don't, I don't know. That's a tough thing to kind of go down the road because it's 6 one way, half dozen the other. I had this conversation with a couple of people recently. You almost have to take somebody off, but if they're not competitive enough to want to compete against a guy that's coming in, even if they have more experience, is the SEC the right place for you? I question that, but it also depends on how much the Rebs have done 2 or 3 things here. Number one, did they promise they were going to recruit over you through the portal? Doubt that. 2, what did you know in spring about it? Did they talk more about it? And then 3, injuries and whatnot. We don't know the full details from spring. Maybe Kiffin thinks they might need somebody. I'd be curious if they took anybody else for O-line in particular, because versatile offensive lineman. Again, I mean, like Therese Davis is a guy that could probably play multiple spots. So maybe they already took care of that need. But maybe they want somebody with a little more experience too. I don't know. That's a really interesting topic. Probably one we'll talk about soon here on Locked On Ole Miss before Steven comes back. Thank you once again for making Locked On Ole Miss your first listen. Truly appreciate you stopping in, listening to me, talk a little bit of portal, a little bit of Kiffin, some SEC, some depth chart. It's been a lot of fun today. I hope you all enjoy it. Please hit that like button, that notification bell, subscribe to the Locked On Ole Miss podcast. Give us a 5-star review on Apple and anywhere else that you download your pods. We will see you again soon.